Non-rigid transformation in function transformation is pretty confusing. Before I put anything in your mind, I would just say when I do the comparison in a minute, don't think about the stretch, shrink, vertical or horizontal. I will be thinking about the steepness, the slope. Okay, so don't let the word horizontal, vertical, shrink, or stretch confuse you. Think about the slope, all right? But as always, do all the work on decimals. Do all the works on decimal. Just download the app or you look it up on Google. Just do it right over there. Graph the function, change the numbers around to see the difference. All right. So the first graph is I graph the absolute value function. So let's take a look at the first graph, this one. I graph the absolute value function. So the first function that I want you to look at is the green one. So when c is equals to 1, c equals to 1, we have absolute value of x. So this is a straight line. On the right hand side, you have y equals to x. On the left hand side, you have y equals to negative x. This is a straight line. The graph looks like a V. So what happened when you put a 3 in front of the x? So when you put a 3 in front of the x without looking at the absolute value, do we agree that the 3x has a bigger slope compared to x? So that's why the graph is steeper, or you can say the V is steeper. What if you change the 3 times absolute value of x to 1/3 times absolute value of x? So 1/3 of x, so the 1/3 affects the slope. So that's why the blue line, the slope is less steeper compared to 3. So on your paper, you can change the 1/3 to 1/13 or 1/9 or 1/10. So that should give you a very clear contrast between 3 absolute value of x and 1/10 square root of x or 1/13 square root of x. Change the numbers a little bit. Don't just take what I gave you. Change that a little bit. You will see the difference immediately. All right, so I also say try to graph 10 times absolute value of x. So you will see a very steep V. Right, the V is very steep, and then the 1/10 square root of x, you will see the V is wide open because the 1/10 affects the slope of the straight line. And then don't look at this yet. Look at the second graph, right over here. Look at this graph. So I want you to compare 3 parabolas. The first one is x squared. X squared means you didn't do any changes, right? So x squared is the red parabola. So what happened when you put the 3? Not right outside of the parenthesis, not right next to x. So outside of the parenthesis means you square first and then you multiply by 3. Again, I would not look at the vertical stretch and vertical shrink. I would just compare the slope. So if you put a 3, do we agree that as x increase a little bit, y increase a lot because you multiply that by 3. You square an x that is big enough and then you multiply by 3. So y will just go up really fast. So the V shape, the parabola, will be very steep. What if you change the 3 to a 1/3? You don't need to stick with the 1/3. You can change that to 1/13 to see what happened. 1/10, 1/9, 1/15 to see what happened. So that one creates a vertical shrink. So vertical shrink means is less steeper. So let's take a look at what I wrote on top. So you have c times f of x. So that means you have a function, whatever that is, the parent function, you multiply by a quantity. So if that quantity is greater than 1, just like the 3 times absolute value of x and the 3 times x squared, that creates a vertical stretch. Just say vertical stretch. So the way I describe that, another way to describe that is like the flower is not opening. Or you can think about the flower is not opening, the petals are closed. But to me, I would just say the slope. Less steeper versus very steep. When c is between 0 and 1, just like that, you have a 1/3 that creates a vertical shrink. It's like a blossom flowers, open petals. So which is what the purple parabola looks like. Just compare the purple and the green. You can change the green one to 5 times x squared and then change the purple one to 1/15 x squared. There should be a very clear contrast between these two functions. Just do that on decimals. Okay, that's the vertical stretch and shrink. How about horizontal stretch? If you compare this graph and this graph, your first impression is the difference, they look pretty similar. I agree with you, they look pretty similar. That's why I said at the very beginning of this video, don't think about vertical, horizontal stretch or shrink, think about steepness. Wide open and not wide open. Okay, back to the business. We have x squared, that is my parabola, and then this time I put a 3. Do you see the blue function? I put the 3 right next to x versus I put a 1/3 right next to x. So which one is steep, which one is wide open? The blue one is steep. Why? Because you pick an x, you multiply by 3, you make the y really, really big, and then you square the product. You just make the y so big. So that's why as you increase the x a little bit, y will just increase a lot, and then that's why this V shape is so steep. As you increase x a little bit, y increase a lot. So that's why I say steep versus less steep. Don't think about the stretch or shrink. And then the green one, you put a 1/3, you pick an x value, you divide it by 3, you just make the x value so small. When you square that, y is not going to increase that fast compared to 3x squared, right? For comparison, you can also give you another graph, let's say 1/10 x squared. You should be able to see that the parabola is even more wide open. Okay, so for the summary, what do we have? We have multiplied the independent variable immediately. When the c value is greater than 1, you create a horizontal stretch. So 3x squared, 3 is greater than 1. I will think about that as champagne glasses. If you have a better description or you have a better way to describe this, how about this? Write a comment. So write a comment below the video, show other people how you describe this to yourself. I want to hear that as well. All right, so leave me a comment. And then when c is between 0 and 1, there is a vertical shrink. So the one c is 1/3, 1/3 is between 0 and 1. I will just picture that as a brandy snifter glasses versus a champagne glasses. If you don't know what brandy snifter glasses looks like, look it up on Google. All right, so that is the end of this video. I still want to repeat this one more time. Don't let the word shrink and stretch confuse you. Think about the slope, the steepness of the graph. Less open, wide open versus less wide open. Again, think about the steepness, the slope. Think about wide open versus less wide open. All right, so that is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, a subscribe. I will meet you all in the next one. Signing out.